There's a rumor. There's a rumor that ARRI might be up for sale. Canon might buy it.
In a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
Now, surely they're not the only camera brand that would specifically be the one to buy it. This is just rumors. Come on, guys, let's be realistic. We don't really have any information to actually go on as of this moment. But if another camera company was going to buy ARRI, Canon is definitely one of the companies that would be a potential buyer. Now, why would they be a potential buyer? Well, ARRI has proven themselves as the undeniable force of image quality. The ARRI image is so desirable and their cameras are so, unfortunately, damn expensive. Like, they start around $30,000+. Many of the bodies are $50,000. You get into $80,000. If something breaks on that and you got to get it worked on, I mean, this is just out of reach for us normal human beings that are, you know, funding our own smaller production companies and doing commercial work. I'm not saying other people don't have ARRIs, but, you know, a lot of us don't want to make monthly payments on something that expensive for the duration of time when there's options that are so damn good available to us that are so reasonable. I say this as a person that owns a Red Epic Dragon and have recently, over the last like 2.5 years, been using my Canon R5C more now, of which I have two. Just got back from a big production shoot for a documentary I'm working on in Detroit for another car film. And I took just the Canons with me and they worked amazing. The Canon R5C is a beast. It's an 8K RAW beast. Now, could benefit from some more dynamic range. And that's one of the beautiful things that the ARRI sensor has, but it's not just the dynamic range, it's how the dynamic range is implemented in the ARRI. ARRI, say it how you want to. I think they are both acceptable. And the way that that dynamic range sits, those stops, they sit high, is my understanding. They sit high. And what that means is that the highlights have this amazing filmic roll-off to them. Nobody quite has the highlight roll-off, in my opinion, that ARRI achieves with their sensor. It is probably, you know, you say that and the color science. But that roll-off is just undeniable. It looks so close to film. Now, the contenders for purchasing ARRI, okay, if they're really up for sale and they're really selling and they're going to be absorbed by another camera company, which makes the most sense, somebody that already has an ecosystem that can immediately implement the ARRI technology into its next line of cameras or can take over the ship with them in conjunction and keep cultivating their camera models, which is another question we'll come to in a moment. But let's just talk about who is the highest candidate for acquiring ARRI. You got basically Sony, Canon, Panasonic, and Nikon is out because Nikon acquired Red, which was a huge deal over this last 1.5 to 2 years. We still haven't seen that really trickle down into the Nikon camera line, but we're in between when they're going to make their next frontier of models. And, you know, we'll see. We're going to see what gets implemented from Red technology into their cameras, or if they keep that separate and just focus on making the next model of Red cameras. This is a big question mark. You know, I think everyone that's a Nikon user wants there to be Red technology that bleeds in to their Nikon cameras because those are potentially going to be a lot more affordable in the camera bodies, you know, mirrorless style camera bodies, than jumping into the Cine line and maybe their Cine line would stay as Red. That's totally potentially possible. It's more confusing with Canon, which we can talk about more in a second, but Canon's market cap, you know, they bring in around $10 to $12 billion just in their camera section, all right? Canon makes printers, Canon does imaging in the medical field, I believe, and Canon makes cameras. This is a relatively small basket of products that they make by comparison to something like Panasonic or Sony. Panasonic, a lot of their technology that they make the majority, the bulk of their money from, is actually more from like things like batteries, for instance, and other electronic devices. And when I say batteries, I mean for like electronic vehicles, for EV, the whole EV market. I think they're a big player in the batteries that are made for that. This is a much bigger revenue stream for them than just their camera department. Sony makes all kinds of stuff. They have the biggest market cap as a company, but the amount of money that's actually focused on cameras specifically is probably 10 to 12 billion. Okay, this is based on my limited amount of research. Maybe I'm off on these numbers. You tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I have come across. Now, that's the same as Canon, but Sony doesn't need the ARRI brand like Canon needs the brand. Sony was the first real digital camera maker. All right, they were the ones that were used for the Star Wars films. They teamed up with other companies around that time to make the first real digital cameras that were used for theatrical release films. The name was there. They're already being used and have been getting used as the digital camera for many films. ARRI has been the other one, and Red has been the other one. But ARRI and Sony really lead that. As much as I love Red and think that they're absolutely amazing, and they absolutely are used on really high production, beautifully shot theatrical release films, Sony and ARRI are used on more. Now, I would say, I don't really want to get into comparing those specific cameras, but I'll just say that flat, plain out, the ARRI look, that is to me, the most desirable look. It's what everything is compared against. That means something. So if you had the ARRI technology paired with Canon, Canon could be brought into the fold on Hollywood films. It just really hasn't gotten pulled in to theatrical release films the way that Sony and Red and ARRI have. And Canon never had that foothold to get in that way. Canon worked its way in from the Canon Mark II. Okay, it was a DSLR camera, and it empowered independent filmmakers. I mean, this is around my time, and I was watching this little camera that allowed you to have interchangeable lenses. You could change the lenses on it, and we could afford to buy it. And you'd have these HD images. This was insane. Shallow depth of field, huge sensor size. That was out of reach for us until that camera came along. So it really opened the door up to independent filmmakers to have an amazing looking camera at the time. People could not afford a Red. Red is more affordable now than it has been, and it's dropped in price so much to these more affordable models like Komodo just over this 5-6 year span where things have gotten more affordable and more democratized. So this ARRI sensor or technology and teaming up with that, if Canon absorbed it, would immediately launch them into theatrical release territory for being used on high production, $100+ million films. There's just no doubt it's ARRI. How much they would keep that separate from the Canon line, I don't know. But obviously, the reason you're watching this, most likely, is because you are fantasizing about the idea that that sensor technology would trickle down into other Canon camera models. I don't know what it would mean for the Canon cinema line currently. This is a bit confusing, because Canon does have a cinema line, whereas Nikon, who absorbed Red, doesn't really have a cinema line of cameras. So I feel like there's less competition. To me, it makes sense that Nikon will probably trickle some of that technology from Red into their image sensor technology that's in their mirrorless style cameras, and then maintain Red as their cinema body style and maintain that company as is. I would assume. With Canon, I don't know if this would decapitate their cinema line and they would just have ARRI as their cinema line, or if they do some combo of it's Canon ARRI, it's all one thing now. I don't know. But I would hope that at a minimum that sensor technology would then trickle in to Canon's mirrorless line. I'm filming on the R5C right now. I just got done with my R5C, multiple projects with the R5C, and I love it. But I'd rather there be an ARRI sensor in there with better dynamic range. That'd be amazing. And that color science is insane. And Canon's look is fantastic. But ARRI is just, that'd be unbelievable. And surely if they got ARRI, it's I'd be probably Canon and ARRI for the rest of time. I don't know, that would kind of seal the deal. I would feel a lot more comfortable continuing to grow my lens choices in one direction of lens mount. I guess that's another question, is an RF mount ARRI? Completely possible. If they bought the company, that's what they would there would be some version of that, whether it's as a Canon cinema body with an ARRI logo on, I don't know, but you give me that sensor, you give me the RF lens mounts, you give me the navigational abilities, and I mean, they take the best of both worlds. Canon's fantastic, makes a ton of sense for them. That would just solidify them as just this insane camera brand. I think it'd be unreal. Now, there might be a cultural difference between German-made cameras and Japanese-made cameras and the companies and the way that they would work. I don't know. There's a lot of questions there, but makes sense that Canon kind of has the most money they'd be willing to work with for that acquisition, because Sony and Panasonic are really the only two other contenders that have that kind of a budget to work with. And they just make so many other things. Sony doesn't really need the ARRI, and Panasonic's just not quite, they just don't have nearly enough market cap to justify that purchase. If they got it, that'd be amazing, but I can't imagine that Canon wouldn't be able to outbid them. I think at this point it'd be that Canon chose to pass on it, and then, Panasonic took advantage of the low bid. What is ARRI's market cap by comparison to even Panasonic's? We don't know, because it's a private company, but there is a report that the profit that was made in 2024 by ARRI was around $150 million. That is just simply not enough money compared to what we're talking about here. So I don't know. It's possible. It's also like completely not possible. We'll see what happens. I really hope it happens, because I've moved so far with Canon. I love Red. I'm still open to getting a Red again, but it is confusing more than ever when they were absorbed by Nikon, because I just don't know what's going to happen with long-term implementation of lens support and where Nikon's going to go and how that's split. And I don't know. This would just simplify my life a lot if Canon and ARRI were all in the same camp and they were synergistically working together to make the best cameras. And the reason that you would divide up, keep putting some of that sensor technology into the smaller mirrorless bodies, and then still having the cinema line that is the ARRI Canon combo, or that it's just ARRI and you don't worry about the cinema line of Canon cameras anymore, and they'd just be the ARRI cameras that would hopefully be way lower in price. I mean, all this hinges on the idea that this would be a democratization of ARRI sensor technology, image quality, ending up in the hands of people like you and me, which sounds really awesome. Now, would I want to spend that much money on an ARRI camera? No, simply not, because the Canon image is already so damn good. Red has got affordable options that's so damn good. ARRI I think that the price cap where they're at, just in today's market, this is part of their problem. They are just too high priced with exclusively that high tier market sector. It just doesn't, that's tough. That's not the money-making vehicle. If they just democratize it, but go ahead and just let a company take over that knows how to do that, knows how to do do this in scale and mass, like a Canon, like a Sony, and like a Panasonic. But I don't know. We've got a shot here, guys. So let's root for it. Let's hope for it. Share your thoughts on who you think is going to absorb ARRI, assuming this is all actually happening. We will see what happens. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Movie Voice.